Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery. Today is Wednesday, April 30th, 2025. We get together with our distribution partners most weekday mornings at 8 o'clock Central to talk about strategies, tips, share techniques, and success stories. Today is obviously the last day of the month, so it's a good time for us to reflect. How has April been? How many clients have we been able to help? How many clients have we been able to solve their problem? And we're going to be talking about problem solving as is on the shared screen. And then secondly, as we look forward to the month of May, what are our goals? Do we have written goals for the month of May? Do each of you have a goal of how many shelf corps that you're going to sell in the month of May? If you could go ahead and type that number into the Q&A, the question and answer box. Do we have a written goal? If so, let's write it down. Let's go ahead and put it into the Q&A. What is your goal for the month of May of how many people you're going to help them solve their problem through a shelf corp? I'll give you a moment to go ahead and put that in. As we typically do in our morning agendas, we start with just welcoming any of you who are new. We have a rapidly growing team of resellers. Now, to us, the terminology grant coordinator, reseller, it means one and the same. To become a grant coordinator or reseller, it doesn't cost anything, not even a contract that you have to sign. You can become one on 509pacific.org. Just fill out the inquiry form and we'll email you a packet. That packet is what we refer to as the implementation packet. We normally will text you when we send it just to make sure that you receive it, make sure it didn't get lost in spam or in other folders. And so with that, you edit the agreement. You take our information off and put yours on. It's what you would call a private label or a white label type of reseller program, and then you're open for business. So does anyone need help getting open for business before we move into our topic today? Okay, and it's pretty straightforward. We have a text line that is most specific for those of you that need help as a reseller, and it's 903-347-8042. All right, so this is I believe, going to be a really good discussion today, and maybe you'll disagree at the end, but give it a chance. So many of you have advanced degrees, like I do. And so when I went to my graduate program, MBA, Master's of Business Administration, there was actually a course, a credit earning course on problem solving. And I thought, what the fuck's this, right? Why do I need to take a graduate level college course from a top MBA program on problem solving? But it was actually fascinating, and I'm going to share some snippets of it because it's very relevant to what you and I do. So, what is it that we do? Because as entrepreneurs, let's step back before I get into us. So, as entrepreneurs, we solve people's problems. If not, people won't give you money, right? So, you're either selling goods or services to solve other people's problems to make money, right? That's what entrepreneurialism is. That's what business is. Selling a good or service to solve someone else's problem. We have a food truck, so we sell tacos in the Dollar General parking lot. We're solving a problem, fast, convenient, hopefully good food. We're a doctor. We're selling services to be able to help people get or stay healthy, right? So in our world, your and mine, what problem or problems do we solve? Go ahead and take a moment and type into the Q&A, what problem do you think that we solve? Okay, so I believe there's two. We help improve, if I can spell it, improve financial literacy and increase access to capital. So from a customer's perspective, we help them get money. and that's implied as to start or grow a business. So, from a customer's perspective, why would someone come to you as a reseller, as a grant coordinator? Because you can solve a problem of theirs. And that problem is you can help them get money, legally and ethically, of course. Now, from your and my perspective, we'd say, well, sure, we're also going to build their financial literacy and we're going to help them become fundable. Because what do you and I know? If you want business funding, you have to have a fundable business. We had a I think, really good discussion yesterday. If you missed yesterday's discussion, we went through the comparison sheet and used it as a way to describe the value proposition. So if you missed yesterday's training, I definitely recommend going to see it on our YouTube channel. It was also sent to you. But we're going to go deeper here. So what problem do we solve? We help entrepreneurs, current or future small business owners, get money. Now, is it more complicated than that? Sure, because they need to have a fundable business. If they want business funding, the easiest, fastest way to do that is, in fact, most likely a fundable shelf corp, which is our deliverable. But if we go out and just say, hey, wouldn't you like a fundable shelf corp? They're going to say, no, because you got to connect with the prospect where they're at. They're looking for money. They're probably not looking for financial literacy. They could probably benefit from it, but that's not what their problem is. The problem that most people have that you and I are going to help is they want money to start or grow a business. Now, why I add this is, let's say they want money to take a vacation. Not really what we're doing. To get money to buy a house for them, for their family living. So there's other types of money uses that's not our space, but our space is getting money to start or grow a business. Now, when I took the problem solving course at the University of Minnesota at the Carlson School of Business, there was a process. And this process is what I want to convey to you because it will help. So I have people saying they're not seeing my screen. So I must have not shared it properly. All right. So does everyone see the screen now? If someone could type. Sorry about that. We had a couple of you saying you couldn't see the screen. Can everyone see the screen now? There we go. Yeah, my fault. All right. So this is just a recap of what we covered so far. So problem solving is what we're talking about. The problem that we solve is helping people get money. But there's a process to problem solving that I want to convey. So process of problem solving. And it's very useful. So stick with me. And if you try this, I think you'll find it very effective. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to define the problem specifically. So often I talk to entrepreneurs, and yes, they want money. Yeah, they want money to start or grow a business. And if we could get them money to start or grow a business, in their mind, we've solved their problem. But that's a bit too generic. We need to be more specific. So how much money do you need? And what are you going to use it for? A lot of these folks, they don't really know how much money they want, or they'll give you some bullshit answer like, as much as you can get me, Michael B. or Rod Francis or Corinthian James. You just load me up with debt. Kind of like this picture right here. You just get me as fucking much money as possible. I want max money. What a bullshit answer, right? That's ridiculous. There should be some specific amount of money that if that entrepreneur had, it would allow them to either get their business started or to grow to the next level. Because it's unrealistic to think, oh, I've got this idea and I'm just going to go borrow $1 billion and I'll figure it out. Well, there's someone on the other side of the transaction that's loaning or considering loaning $1 billion. They're going to want to know, how much money do you need? And what are you going to use it for? So we call this the uses of funds. Now with the Shelf Corp, we know the right answers. So that's the beauty of the shelf corp, because if we were just building a business from scratch, we would have to work with the client and they'd have to figure out a lot. And a lot of them don't know what you and I know, and they wouldn't come up with, frankly, very good answers in many cases because the answers matter. But with the shelf corp, we know the right answer. So we're going to go after $100,000 of working capital. Now, if clients need more than that or money for different purposes, we can adjust the plan, but we need to define the problem. Now, this is applicable beyond just clients. Let's go to Rod. Rod's great. Rod's going to be one of our top producers in the month of April. But Rod hasn't produced anything in the month of March. So I'm sorry, he's going to be one of our top producers in the month of May. He hasn't produced anything in March. So let's use Rod as a different scenario. So we could ask Rod, what's the problem? You're not making any money as a reseller. As a grant coordinator, Rod, to the best of my knowledge, you've made $0 in the month of April. That's fucking horrible. The average reseller does a deal a day, 5 a week, 20 a month. What's the problem? So then, Rod, if you'll play along for us, Rod, what do you think is the problem that's keeping you from, we don't want all that. Rod, what's the problem that's keeping you from enrolling clients? And we'll see if Rod responds. Hopefully he will. But he could say, well, I don't know what to do. Or you might say, I don't know how to sell, or I don't know. I'm waiting for Rod to say, but we need to identify the problem. So any of you who are resellers, grant coordinators, if we look at the month of April, and if assuming you've been around for the full month, if you're not averaging a deal a day, we've got a problem. We've got a problem. You're below average. If you're going to be below average, either fix it, come up to average, or go do something else. You don't want to be a low producer. So if you're not, so we need to define what your problem is. What's keeping each of you who are below average from doing a deal a day? So go ahead and type in to the Q&A. We're going to identify your problem. Because you could say, well, I need money. Well, yeah, sure. As a reseller, as a grant coordinator, you'll make money, but you'll make money based upon helping people solve their problems. So I'm anxious to know from each of you who've been with us a full month through the month of April, if you've not hit a deal a day, which is just average, what's the problem? Is it you? Is it us? What is the problem? Because until you define the problem, there are no good solutions. But most people don't think this way. They don't stop to think and even write down what the problem is. So as you're responding to the Q&A, to that question, that prompt, let's go back to from a client's perspective. So the problem they have is they want money. They want to get money. Whether it's to start or grow a business, that's kind of inconsequential, but they want money. So then we would ask them, well, what's the problem? Why don't you have money? What's the barrier? Because there's banks, there's credit unions, there's online lenders all over the place. They're looking to loan money, right? That's what they do. They loan money. They have people that are incentivized. Their jobs depend upon them loaning money. So you can't tell me that there's not money out there. There's absolutely money out there. So if we're talking to an entrepreneur that says, my problem is I need to get money, we need to ask, well, what's the problem? Why don't you have money specifically? Now, often they're not qualified. So not qualified is the most common reason. Because the only other reason is they just don't know how to go apply for funding, which can be cumbersome, and we can help them with that. But usually they're not qualified, right? Either it's their personal credit, or they don't have a business that's in good standing, or they don't have collateral. They don't have a fundable business, which is, of course, where we come in. So once we've defined the problem, what we want to do next is brainstorm. And there's more to it. I'm going to add the rest. But what does it mean when we brainstorm? When we brainstorm, that means we think freely without judging, without evaluating our answers. So we want to brainstorm possible solutions and write them down. So again, if you're a reseller, if you're a grant coordinator, and you did not meet at least average for the month of April, we need to figure out what the problem, and we want to start thinking about what possible solutions there are. Not judge them, not evaluate them, but just write them. So it might be buy leads. It might be get referrals from loan brokers. It might be build a sales team that's better than I am. It might be ask current clients for referrals. There's lots of things. But what we want to do is define the problem in writing, whether it be you as a reseller or the prospective client, and then we want to brainstorm possible solutions. So if you remember our training yesterday where we looked at the comparison sheet, that's what we were doing. We were helping them compare alternatives as a practical but an effective way to get them to see that the shelf corpse that we offer is probably the best answer, but we didn't force it down their throat. So again, if you missed yesterday's training where we went through the comparison document, now all of you that have become a reseller or grant coordinator, you received an editable version of that comparison sheet when we first onboarded you. So first we need to define the problem specifically. And I know you face this too. Sometimes you'll talk to people and they'll just fucking rattle and rattle. And it's like, I don't know what you just said. Can you say it in one sentence? So define the problem in one sentence. So let's look at you. So Letitia, thank you for responding. Letitia says her problem for not generating at least a deal a day, she's below average, is that she needs more training. Great, great. So she's identified in 4 words what's keeping her from being average. She's below average because she needs more training. Well, Letitia, I want to make sure that you and everyone else know we have a training library that's on demand. So these morning sessions that we do, we post most of them up on YouTube. So Letitia and everyone else, you can go to our YouTube channel, and I don't think any of you will ever want more training than what we provide. There's over 100 hours of training available. So for any of you that feel like training is the issue, then we can resolve that easily. And so this is helpful. And Letitia fell right into line. So she has a problem. She's not making the money that she wants to, that she needs to, that she prefers to as a reseller. She's defined the problem that she's not trained. And guess what? We just solved the problem. It's available. Bam. Now, it's not always that easy, right? Sometimes, other issues could be not good at closing. And when you're running a sales organization, and that's what you do, if you're a reseller, you're a grant coordinator, you're running a sales organization. Maybe it's just you, or maybe you're building a sales team. But with that being said, you need leads, and then you need to close those leads. And so it's kind of up to you to evaluate where the problem is. So we need to identify the problem in writing, try to get it preferably into